Lee Summit has not beaten Lee Summit North since 2019. They have been eliminated by the Broncos in the playoffs each of the last 3 seasons. So, Kevin, they have met twice each of the last 3 years, and Lee Summit has failed to beat Lee Summit North. I think this is the team that knows over at Lee Summit that knows they can get it done. The question is, will they get it done?
Hello and welcome to the Verbal Commitment Podcast here on the Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Kevin Flaherty, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend Ryan Wallace. And we're talking about the world of local recruiting, from Kansas and Kansas City prospects to the college classes at Kansas, Kansas State, and Missouri. This week, we'll break down all things KC-Mo, from teams with the highest expectations to teams with questions to answer, and even some teams to watch for the future. Next week, we'll do the same for Kansas. We also went out to Blue Springs South for the school's media day and have some interviews from the Jaguars who could be in for a pretty big season. As always, if you like what you're hearing, comment below, tell your friends about us, subscribe, hit that like button, or leave us a review, a 5-star ranking, wherever you get your podcasts, like Apple or Spotify. We have our own specific audio channel through KCSN on Apple and Spotify, so you can seek us out there. Once again, we appreciate you guys helping us to grow and getting us in front of more people like you. We didn't have any players in the past week commit to play at Kansas, Kansas State, or Missouri. Ryan, I think we're at 3 or 4 straight weeks now.
I don't think we're going to get any.
Hopefully that changes a little bit. Maybe we get a 27 kid or something with the season starting up and these schools hosting players. When somebody does commit, you can expect to find our analysis of that commitment right here on the show. Both of us wanted to say good luck to our local teams as they start their season this week. Kansas and Kansas State both have week 0 contests. The Wildcats are heading up to Ireland for an early Big 12 challenge against Iowa State. Kansas will open up the newly reinforced, renovated, whatever R word you want to use, the new booth against Fresno State. Missouri will start its season next week. Missouri high schools also start up next week with a pretty loaded week 1 slate. And Ryan, let's go ahead and get into it with the biggest expectations, non-Platte County division.
Yeah, let's challenge ourselves a little bit here.
Yeah, and before we do talk about our picks there, Ryan, the reason we didn't include Platte here is the Pirates are the obvious choice for highest expectations, returning so much talent from a team that went 14-0. Didn't just win the state title and go undefeated. Their 2 closest games came by 2 touchdowns. So obviously we didn't want to go the Platte County route in this one.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that was like the low-hanging fruit. I don't think we'll get to Kansas in another week, right? But when we kind of do our previews for that state. But I mean, yeah, outside of somebody across the state line, and again, we'll get to that later, Platte is the team on the Missouri side that, I mean, everybody is. We talked about it at the end of last year. They peaked a year early. Yeah. This was the year they were expected to do it. And so, now the pressure is really on for a repeat. And you and I both know how challenging that is.
Sure. With Platte County taken off the table, then, Ryan, who is your pick for the team with the biggest expectations for this season?
I'm going to go, I say kind of out on a limb, but I went with the Kearney Bulldogs.
Yeah.
When I think about how close Kearney was a year ago to reaching the state title game, 3 points shy, I think, of getting into that Class 4 state title game. They fell short. And yet you think about everything that Coach Minnick has coming back, right? We know about Isaac and Mason Beaver. Carter Temple is now a year older, at a seasoned quarterback that continues to evolve as a passer, and we know he can do things on the ground. And then a kid that I've started to really become intrigued by, a 2027 that will join him in the backfield, Dryden Hendricks, a transfer from Richmond that, Kevin, the film really pops. So now you start to think about, the line of scrimmage seems pretty sound, right? I think I might butcher the name here, but Nick Belabry, labor. Another force up front to combine with the Beaver twins. Like, the trenches look good. I think there may be just a handful of positions that if they can iron it out, Kevin, they've got a lot of pieces back and a lot of pieces that gained some valuable experience late in the year last year to really make Kearney a tough out in Class 4. I think for them, it really is at least making the state title game. And then if they get there, state title or bust out at Kearney this year.
Yeah, hard to have higher expectations, obviously, heading into a high school season than state title or bust. But yeah, for all the reasons you listed, I really think Kearney kind of needs to have that mindset this year. I mean, there isn't really anything that you look at on that roster, I think, where you take something off the table and say, hey, this is the thing that is definitively going to trip this team up.
And when you think about, teams that don't have a lot holding them back from reaching the peak, I think your choice at Blue Spring South really fits the bill as well, right?
Yeah. It's a team that I probably shouldn't get too much into, Ryan, because we are going to have a lot of discussion on Blue Spring South. Obviously, talking to Coach Wilmes, talking to a few of the players there as well. But this is a program that really jumps out as a team that was terrific a year ago, wound up going 8-3, and yet returned 17 starters. And it's not just returning 17 starters either. I think they've got that great mix of all these experienced guys that you know what to expect. And yet, when you also look at guys like Prince Goldsby, when you look at, the linebacking core, there are some young guys that are starting to come up and kind of raise that ceiling from where they've been. They're loaded pretty much everywhere. When you're playing Blue Spring South, your primary fear is speedy quarterback Aiden Wilhelm going for 80 yards. Of course, we've had him on the show previously. But then you add in a terrific actual running back in Darius Morgan. So all of a sudden, you're worried about the two-back running game. Well, okay, but then they have that receiving core that goes 4 deep, and you've got Gary Hill, Wyatt Denny, all these guys there. Coach was talking about, hey, we're going to throw the ball to our tight end and Luke Strickert a little bit more. They have a really good offensive line complete with good tackles. And Ryan, one of the things that I loved when you were talking to the players and everything, you were kind of like, it feels like people are sleeping on this defense somehow, despite the fact that the defense may be just as loaded, if not more so, than that offense.
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Richberg, who you'll hear from later in the show, is a guy that made his presence known last year. And I mean, standing in next to him face to face, I mean, he's a guy that will let his presence be known again this year as a senior. On the back end, you've got like a Blaine Marshall that's back. I think Parker Hunt, Wyatt Denny, I think is returning from an injury last year. And I think he can kind of go both ways, both sides of the ball. So they've just got so many weapons. And I think it's one of those where so many times you have strong teams around the Metro that maybe are built on the skills of one or two kind of playmakers. And I think when you look at Blue Spring South, you can take him away and we'll go this way. You can take that away, we'll go this way. There are players at every single level. They are probably the deepest roster in the Metro, and that might include Platte County.
Yeah, it's interesting. Offensively, I think they could be kind of the football version of baseball's Wee Willie Keeler, that hit it where they ain't. Wherever the defense tries to adjust, they've got answers for that. And yet, at the same time, I do love that defense. Blaine Marshall is so good. We've talked about him so much on the show. I feel like we should have talked about Parker Hunt more on the show.
Probably.
And I was really impressed with him in person and physically and everything. Northwest Missouri State's getting a really good player in Parker Hunt. You look at Jaden Richberg and the way that he thumps out of the middle. You look at Wilmes and the way that he's kind of able to play that hybrid-y sort of position. You have a guy like Prince Goldsby that really has that speed and length off of the edge. I think that this is a team that, like I said, they went 8-3 last year, reached the third round of the playoffs. those expectations should be just absolutely through the roof this year.
Yeah, and again, I mean, they'll get tested, in the regular season. Obviously, with that schedule, playing in, one of the toughest leagues in the entire state in the Suburban. I mean, they will be battle tested if they can make it through. I don't want to say unscathed, even if they have a trip up in 1 week. I doubt it's more than 2 weeks that we see a trip up from Coach Wilmes's team, but even still, I think you're going to be able to grow a lot and get into the playoffs feeling really good just because of the type of seasoning, the type of experience you're going to get week in and week out in the regular season, so that you're coming in, guns blazing by the time the bracket comes out.
I actually really love that point, just because I think that we've seen teams locally struggle when they haven't been tested. And then you get into the playoffs and you face adversity that you weren't expecting, that you haven't seen before. And so I do think it's an advantage to go into the season being tested like that schedule is going to be for them. And to your point, I do think they'll pass the large majority of those tests. We'll go ahead and continue our look at KC Mo High School football right after this.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
I'm Brett Goodwin, one of the owners of The Learning Tree. The Learning Tree is a neighborhood toy store in Prairie Village, Kansas. This has been here in this location since 2000s, and my husband Alan and I purchased the store in 2023. Alan and I grew up in families where we've always wanted to have a business together. Alan grew up, for instance, his parents had a jewelry store. I worked in a local toy store here in Prairie Village when I was growing up. When this opportunity happened in 2023, we knew right away we wanted to contact them and pursue the store. We wouldn't have been able to get the store without the team at Emprise Bank. From the day we contacted them, they knew what we needed to do, which was very helpful. I would absolutely recommend the team at Emprise Bank to anyone looking to secure a business. We worked with Emprise from day one. They were extremely helpful. They were always great resources. We talk to them frequently. They know the area. They're very friendly. We know who we're going to talk with, and they know what we need to do. We hope we'll see you at the Learning Tree.
Folks, nothing beats hanging out with the boys on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And the simplest way that you all can get in on the action is to download the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It is crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part is, Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and then use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Welcome back to the Verbal Commitment Podcast. We just took a look at KC Mo teams with the biggest expectations heading into this season. Now let's look at teams that maybe deserve a little bit more buzz than they're getting right now. Not a major spoiler, Ryan, but I really did like your pick for this one.
Yeah, I wonder what's going on a little bit with the Park Hill Trojans, right? They just strike me as a team that has a lot of firepower and for whatever reason is flying under the radar. Like when you think about what they were able to do a year ago, I know that there are some pieces that they do have to replace, but you think about what's coming back for Park Hill, right? You think about, a Dante Dixon, a Jonah Weir, that will anchor, the defense. Jonah Weir, just a player that we just talked about as being now a top 10 guy prospect that we feel like on the Kansas City, Missouri side as a senior. So I think you're going to see him make leaps and bounds, and he is the type of guy that can impact the game, every single snap, week in and week out for Park Hill on defense. I mentioned Dante Dixon. You go down the list. DJ Bronson is the other player that I was thinking of that'll be kind of on the opposite side of Dante Dixon. So they're going to be a formidable foe in the defensive secondary to go against every week. Again, when you think about the pass rush, you think about the secondary, and then Saquon Copeland will anchor the middle. So I really like the defense. And then like the offense, I mean, it's Zane Thomas. You know what I mean? Like this is the Park Hill offense that, Andy Sims is running. That, like, if there's anything that you can feel confident in and year out, it's that Coach Sims's offense is going to hum, and he's going to have a quarterback that's going to be able to zip it around all over the place. And this year, you have that and then some, because Zane Thomas was a starter and played really well a year ago, and now comes back with, all that experience. He's a threat to put up some real legitimate numbers and be a candidate for the Simone Award. So I really think that there's a lot of people that are sleeping on Park Hill. I've seen some like top 25 preseason lists come out, and projections, and they're nowhere to be found. And I'll just be honest, Kevin, I don't understand it one bit. I think they are a legitimate threat on the Missouri side this season.
Yeah, like I said before, I loved your pick on this one. I think a big part of the reason why, too, is this is a program, you think about the run that Liberty had in the playoffs last year. Park Hill beat Liberty in the regular season. Liberty got the better of Park Hill in the playoffs. And you think if you reverse that, where Park Hill had gotten that win over Liberty in the playoffs, I think we'd be talking about this program a little bit differently, because they would have been the ones that had that run.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I really think that they were maybe overachieving in some ways last year. And so, probably not to the value of a Platte County, but I still think with what they have returning, it's shocking that they're flying under the radar. But at the same time, there's a part of me that wonders if Coach Sims and that roster aren't thriving in the fact that everybody's overlooking them and counting them out.
I'm going to go ahead and go with Lee Summit. The Tigers went 8-3 last year and toppled Rockhurst in the playoffs before falling in the 2-touchdown game to rival Lee Summit North. It was their second time playing North in 3 games. It's not fun to play Lee Summit North once. It's really not fun to play Lee Summit North twice. It's really not fun to play Lee Summit North twice in 3 games. If all you return from that team was the Hatfields, I think you'd feel pretty solid. I had Preston Hatfield on my Simone Award watch list. You could make an argument that Peyton deserves a spot on there as well. But then there's Carson Feeney, who we had on the show as a Tacos for Life Player of the Week. And when we went to that KC Varsity Combine, Ryan, it felt like they had great-looking linemen sort of all over the place. So you have an interesting young quarterback, you've got some fun pieces on defense, and then you have all of those weapons on offense. This is another program, you used the phrase battle-tested earlier. This is a program that got really battle-tested a year ago heading into the playoffs. They have a similar stretch again this year in terms of just a really tough, 4-game stretch in there. But I don't think they're going to get pushed around by anybody.
No, I think outside of Blue Springs South, I think you could make a very, very strong argument and case that Lee Summit has what we would consider maybe we're looking at it too much from a college prospect point of view, but still one of the strongest, best looking offensive lines that you're going to find in the Metro. I mean, Zach Harsh is a guy that just picked up a Liberty offer the other night. That's number 1 FBS for Zach Harsh, and I think he's going to have a lot more coming. And again, he's just going to be a junior this season. So a lot to like about Lee Summit. I'll have a little bit more on the Tigers here in a minute.
All right. let's take a look at a program with questions to answer now. And Ryan, we had the same exact pick on this one, the Rockhurst Hawklets. So let's get your thoughts on some of the questions that you feel like Rockhurst faces.
Well, I just think that, having to replace a quarterback like Charlie Luce, no matter what you think of him, at times I thought last year he was incredibly efficient, pinpoint accuracy, and then kind of late in the year, things got away. But nevertheless, anytime you have to replace a quarterback, it's going to be a challenge, even at Rockhurst. And so we say there are questions to answer. They've got pieces.
Sure.
Kevin Sullivan's there. Another really, really stout offensive line. I mean, as good on coming off the bus as maybe you'll find in the Metro. So they've got pieces. Love Pierce Fisher. We've talked about him before on the show and all the things that he can do. But I just think that there are a lot of pieces that are gone from last year that they have to replace. It feels like they might be a little young in certain areas. So again, questions to answer. This isn't a team that can't get it done. It might be one of those teams, though, for Kelly Donahoe, Kevin, that it strikes me as the type of season where they might take some licks during the regular season. And then if they can just kind of hold it together and get some guys kind of comfortable under those Friday night lights in some key position areas, then you might be able to lean on some of your, upperclassmen and lean a little bit more on some of those underclassmen that have then grown up once you start to get into the playoff action.
I'm going to ask you a question really quickly. Is this a top 10 team in the state of Missouri?
No.
That's where a lot of my question comes from. Max Preps has Rockhurst at number 7 right now. And so, to me, it's not necessarily...
Are we talking all classes? Are we talking all classes?
All classes. And
no.
so, to me,
no.
you're including the entire state in here. I think Nick's one, if I remember right. So, yeah, when you look at it from that perspective, that's my thought with it, is just sort of, I'm not saying Rockhurst won't have a good year. I'm not saying, like you said, that they can't kind of grow as they go through the season and even be a dangerous team heading into the playoffs. But man, that's rich for my blood, calling them the number 7 team in the state right now. This is a program that was 6-4 a year ago, got bounced in their first playoff game, lost a pretty good quarterback, as you mentioned, in Charlie Luce, among some other good players and experienced players as well. And so, again, that's not to say that I'm sitting here being like, oh, Rockhurst is going to be 3-7 this year. I just think that when you're looking at a program and saying, hey, this should be a top 10 team, a top 15 team, even a top 25 team in Missouri, and I'm not saying they can't be that, but they have some questions to answer before I feel strongly enough to be like, oh, yes, they're definitely that.
Yeah, and I think for me, beyond the quarterback, I mean, answering the quarterback question is huge for them. But I think beyond that, this is probably as challenging an offseason that I can remember Kelly Donahoe having, even going back to his Blue Springs days, in terms of finding a little bit more skill position talent. Yeah. It feels like in recent memory, Rockhurst has just lacked maybe that true burner right on the outside, or even in the secondary. It feels like they haven't had a guy that can just really like take the top off. I mean, maybe that's Cash Lewandowski this year. Maybe that's Blake Thomas. But again, we're talking about kids that are just going to be entering their junior seasons and haven't really, shown up consistently on the scene yet. So that's why we're pegging them. You said it accurately, Kevin. It's not that we expect Rockhurst to crash and burn, right? Yeah, we have way too much respect for that program, for Kelly Donahoe. But it could be a work in progress this year. I will say, maybe looking ahead at 2027, if they can get some of those pieces figured out, they should be really strong coming in. I say 27, 26. They should be a really strong roster if everybody comes back here next fall.
I would add that Rockhurst had one of the best atmospheres that we saw a year ago when the Hawklets hosted St. Thomas Aquinas in a terrific game. And that's what Friday nights are all about. Two great teams squaring off in front of rabid fans. And that brings up our next category. Ryan, what's your must-have ticket for this season?
This was tough. Again, kind of low-hanging fruit felt like Blue Springs South. And so again, I was like, I gotta challenge myself a little bit here. And so I'm gonna go with another in crosstown rivalry. So maybe it's still somewhat low-hanging. Lee Summit at Lee Summit North, and it will not happen until October 24th. So folks, get your tickets in advance because I think you're going to want to get out to this one late October. Here's the thing is I said I was going to get to the Tigers in a little bit. Lee Summit has not beaten Lee Summit North since 2019. They have been eliminated by the Broncos in the playoffs each of the last 3 seasons. So, Kevin, they have met twice each of the last 3 years, and Lee Summit has failed to beat Lee Summit North. I think this is the team that knows over at Lee Summit that knows they can get it done. The question is, will they get it done? Obviously, there's a lot of drama going on right now in the preseason with Lee Summit North. So I just think all of this is going to build to a frenzy when those two teams play each other, because I have a hunch, Kevin, that there's going to be some serious kind of seeding at stake that late in the year for maybe who gets a bye when the Misha brackets come out, and maybe who's got to play in week 1 again and kind of get off to a start that very next week. So Lee Summit at Lee Summit North is a must-have ticket for me.
I also went with a crosstown game. I went with Liberty and Liberty North. Ryan, we joke all the time about how much I have love for linemen. And every year, this game seems to deliver in the biggest way in the trenches. It's just an absolute battle out there. I love guys on both offensive lines, except that those guys have the challenge of having to try and run the ball on the other guy's defense. Liberty won both of last year's games. They took the regular season matchup 12-7, won in the playoffs 13-10. To put that into perspective, those were Liberty's 2 lowest scoring outputs for the season. Those were Liberty North's 2 lowest scoring outputs for the season. Liberty averaged 33 points per game against teams not named Liberty North. Liberty North averaged 32.3 points per games against teams not named Liberty. They scored 42 points combined over 2 games against each other. This year's game, or, hopefully games, promise to be another slobber knocker, and I can't wait to watch, honestly.
I know with Coach Learman's squad at Liberty North, a little bit, not a rebuild, but maybe reconstructing in some areas. They're going to be a little bit younger. They've got a number of guys I feel like on offense that they're going to have to replace. But again, it's one of these rivalry games, a lot of respect, a lot of players that know one another very well, which means they know their tendencies very well. So, it would not surprise me, even though you would imagine Liberty to kind of have a little bit more firepower still left over from last year's roster. It still might be a game that, like you said, Kevin, is down to the wire.
And Liberty North has some good young wideouts, and I'm interested to see if there are 2 games between the two. It could be an awfully bright stage for those guys in the first one. How are they settled in by the time they play in the playoffs? And that could help determine that game too, if they're able to open things up maybe a little bit more.
Very true. Very true.
Just a couple categories left. First, who are you buying stock in for this upcoming season?
Yeah, so I looked at this one as like, I'm believing like the hype, right? I'm jumping on that train. I'm buying stock now, right? I'm all in. And again, Blue Springs South felt like a team that I could be all in on. But I'm kind of like, who else though? There's more teams on the Kansas City, Missouri side that I can choose from. And that's when I realized what Odessa brings back to the table. And I'm like, oh yeah, because you've got that Scott to Powell connection that was so huge for them a year ago. So now that quarterback wide receiver duo is back, and they're going to be a handful, but they're 2 of only 9 returners on offense. So again, you're only replacing 2 starters on the offensive side of the ball. And on the defensive side of the ball, Kevin, one player that they have to that's not returning. 10 players are back for Odessa on a program that was 14 points shy of reaching the Class 3 semifinals last year. And they replaced their head coach with a guy by the name of Brett Jewell, who is formerly the defensive coordinator at a little old program called Lutheran North. So you put all these things together, and I'm like, yeah, that feels like a recipe for a team that can make a very, very strong run in Class 3. I will buy that stock.
I'm glad you explained sort of what your rationale was, because when I thought about stock, I thought about something that you want to buy low that's going to have growth and upside to go high. And I think that Richberg checks both of those boxes. This is a team that went 1-10 last year, had 8 double-digit losses. The only victory came by a single point. Ryan, we both know what Coach Jones is capable of. I recommend all those of you out there to go back and watch our show that he came on. And I think the Panthers are really going to embrace the physicality that he wants to bring. And when you want to be physical, it really helps to have a terrific running back you can give the ball to a whole bunch, like DeZeff and Walker. Look, I don't know if this team is going to be, 7 wins, 8 wins. I don't know if they have a deep playoff run in them, but I feel really good in buying stock that they should be significantly better than sort of where the stock was at a year ago.
That's one of those teams, Kevin, that I think you nailed it. It's like all they're going to need is maybe 1 or 2 weeks of either an actual victory or a moral victory to go, yeah, we're believing what Coach Jones has been telling us all off season. And if they get a little bit of a spark this year, that's just a cherry on top, because I think everybody is kind of even looking towards future years and what Richberg can get back to being. But if they can even sniff some of that this year, then they're off to a faster head start than we even expected.
Speaking of the future, our final category was investing stock. I took this to mean a program on the rise that could be good this year, but you're really investing on a come up in the future. Who did you pick in this one?
Well, we had the exact kind of same line of thought. I'm going with St. Pius. We talked about it all off season, kind of seeing some of their individuals participate in combines and camps, and you start talking around to different coaches, and you kind of figure out that, yeah, Pius has something going. Coach Simone's got something going over there. The numbers might always limit them a little bit in terms of depth, but I think so long as that's a program that's able to keep some of these starters healthy and retain some of these guys, I mean, they are going to be a handful. I think they're going to be pretty good this year. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I just feel like if you're investing in this year, next year, maybe the year after that, you can't really go wrong right now with Pius, because, obviously Hudson Bailey is a guy that will lead them this year. But even after this year, you've got a kid named Jake Nichols that I think they feel pretty strongly can come right in and pick up without, a hiccup. Kyler Kuhn will be back. Our number 1 player in the class of 2027 will be there again to anchor both sides of the line. Jamel Hallman is a kid at defensive tackle that I grew to love over the summer, along with Chase Brookings, Carson Barnes, another just junior on this team. So all those guys will be back for Coach Simone after this year. I think watch Pius this year. Watch how they handle that schedule, right? Rockhurst right out of the gate. Then they're playing, I'm looking at it, Catholic, which is a team in Little Rock, Arkansas. They go to Gardner Edgerton. They welcome Cardinal Ritter. Like, it's a gauntlet, right? But this is one of those teams that, again, those younger kids are going to grow up quick. They're going to have to grow up quick. And that's why I'm investing in this program, because once those guys get their feet wet a little bit this season, look out for Pius in years to come.
The parochial schools, kind of pull from the same group of kids, right? And So a lot of times you'll hear coaches talk about like, well, you should see Aquinas' freshman class, St. James had a good freshman class, etc. It felt like talking to different people around the city, Ryan, that the St. Pius has done very well the last couple classes in terms of getting guys from those pools. I love the Pius pick. Like you said, when we were out at Casey Varsity, it felt like every time we saw a 27 or 28 kid that we got excited about, we'd look at the roster and it was another Pius kid. I'm going to go ahead and go with North Kansas City. I went out to watch the Hornets practice and catch up with Kobe Rhymes, who's one of our top players in Casey Mo for 2027. We kind of have him as the 1B to Kyler Kuhn's 1A at this point. And after talking with Coach Joyner, who kept kind of pointing out all their young talent, and talking with Kobe, I kind of got the feeling this was a similar situation to Platte County or Blue Springs South a year ago. Not saying that, hey, they're going to win the state title this year like Platte County did a year ago, or even that they'll go 8-3 like Blue Springs South did. But it's just that there's so much talent in that junior class that you feel like they could have a strong year this year to really set them up for a strong year next year. When you have players like Kobe, running back Samuel Zinna, I know you're a fan of, wide receiver Reggie Smith was a guy I really liked a lot at practice. Jayon Hampton's kind of their all-purpose athlete type guy. All of those guys are going to be back in 2026 when they're seniors. And so remember, from a investing stock standpoint as well, this is a program that was 2-8 2 years ago, went 5-5 last year to head into the playoffs. So I really do think that they're trending up, and I think they'll probably be better than 5-5 this year, Ryan. But I think that they have a chance to be really good and significantly better in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who disagrees with you or is on the fence about North Kansas City, go back, find the episode, scroll towards the end with your interview with Kobe Rhymes, and you will be immensely fired up about just him as a player, how confident he is in North Kansas City and what Coach Joyner and them are building. And you will understand, I think, why you and myself included are buying in early on what North Kansas City can and will be.
This past weekend, we made our way out to Blue Springs South Media Day. We'll have our interviews from that event right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
This is the Verbal Commitment Podcast here on KCSN. You can follow us on Twitter at verbalcommit_KC. Follow Ryan at @the_Ryan Wallace, or myself at Flaherty KCSN. Excuse me. Give us your thoughts down below in the comments. Reach out to us on social. Let us know what you agree with on our picks or what you don't, or maybe just, hey, this is a game I'm really looking forward to seeing if I had a ticket. We'd love to hear your guys' picks. Saturday, we went out to Blue Springs South to watch a program that has big-time expectations for the upcoming season. We spoke with Jaguars coach Alan Wilmes about those expectations, as well as his loaded roster. Take a look. So, Coach, you guys have a pretty good-looking team out here, 17 returning starters. What sort of expectations do you guys have for this season?
Well, we always want to compete for championships, but in reality, what we talk to kids about is staying with the process, or we call it water the bamboo, because bamboo plants take a long time, so you got to keep watering them. So we just kind of use that mantra, but just to get better every day and take it 1 week at a time. But I know these guys have high expectations with the experience and obviously the talent we have, so we're excited.
With you looking at this team, two of the things that you look for when you look for teams that have a lot of success is, one, a lot of experience on the lines. You guys have that. You also have a really good returning quarterback in Aiden. I guess, first of all, how has Aiden grown since last year?
Oh, tremendously, just in terms, he's gotten faster. He's a true 4.4 guy now, running 22 miles an hour. Arm strength has improved, leadership has improved, just as you would see a natural progression from a guy that started as a sophomore and is now a senior. So he's taken a lot of ownership on the team and the offense, and we've added some wrinkles this year, so he's done a good job with that, with leading those guys on the field. So we're super excited for his senior season.
And then offensive line, you have some guys there. Can you break those guys down a little bit?
Oh, yeah. So, Jude Cousins is coming back. He's our left tackle. He's a junior. Started his freshman year, was first team all-conference last year. I think second team all-conference as a freshman, and really tough conference. So glad to have him back. He's one of our better players. Matthew Martinez is our right guard. He's coming back as well as a starter. Junior, just a big road grading guard. Owen Smith will step in. He started like 4 games last year as a sophomore, so he's back, bigger and stronger. He'll be playing left guard for us. Cole Snyder will bounce from right tackle to center, our center right now, but he's a returning starter. Had a really good season last year. And then a young guy named, he was a senior, not a young guy, but Hudson Lundberg came to us this year and committed to Central Arkansas, but he's about 6'4", 270, and he's super athletic kid, just a really good football player. So we're very blessed. Those guys have had a good summer.
I know you value toughness a lot. How tough and how good can this defense be with the pieces you have?
I think they can be very good. I mean, we have a majority of our starters back. A lot of those guys started as sophomores, and so several of those guys will be their third years as players on the field. So, they're bigger, faster, and stronger this year. And we're in the same defense where we've added some wrinkles, some new fronts, some new coverages. They've picked it up like that. So as long as they play hard and we stay healthy, they're going to be really good on the other side.
I've seen you also talk about how you want to be balanced offensively. As a play caller, are you a little bit spoiled for choice with having Darius Morgan at running back and this group of wide receivers for Aiden to go out there and utilize?
Oh, absolutely. So, that's why we tell Aiden just to kind of be the point guard, deliver the ball. If it ain't there, take off, with that speed. But, yeah, we're pretty lucky. We have guys everywhere. And, our goal, though, is to stay within our system and the ball will go where it needs to go based upon what the defense gives us. So, we have trust in all those guys that they can make big plays.
So outside of maybe Platte County and St. Thomas Aquinas, it feels like maybe Blue Spring South enters this season with maybe the highest expectations, most pressure to deliver, right? How do you feel like this roster in particular is kind of welcoming some of those high expectations, and how do you feel like this is a senior and junior group that can handle those expectations?
Sure, yeah. Well, it's the 4th year in our program since I've been here, so everybody's been under our kind of the deal or our philosophy. So we're really excited about that, where all the kids know how to practice and the expectations, and just building up the lower levels and development. They all understand the expectations, even the sophomores who are really talented. So we're excited because we feel like we have a lot of depth and a lot of guys that are on board and that are bought in. So, for us, we feel like we have a good chance every week to be able to be successful just because of that.
And then last but not least, a lot of guys returning, so the faces might be the same, but where and how do you feel like this group is different than last year?
Sure. I feel like our leadership has improved. I mean, we had a lot of good leaders last year, but a lot of those guys are, again, back. We're stronger. We've really worked on our speed this year and our functional movement, and it's really shown in the summertime. So I think, we're going to be faster out there, and we're going to be better at the little things, and we're also kind of evolving and doing some stuff practice-wise, look at some science as football coaches that other programs do to make sure our kids are fresh when it comes playoff time. So we're excited to see how it goes.
That was Coach Wilmes talking about his team. We absolutely could have talked to a ton of players there about the upcoming season, but we only have so much time in our show. So on offense, we had a chance to speak with Gary Hill, one of the top wide receivers in the city. Here's what he had to say. Gary, how's your off season going?
Good. We need to put a lot of work in this off season, and hopefully it prepares us for the season.
What was your goal this off season? Like, where did you want to get better?
I wanted the team to get better. I wanted to build chemistry with the team and just make sure we're ready for this season to go win a state championship.
What you talked about state championship? Is that the end goal for this team?
That is
why,
the end goal.
And why do you think you guys can get there?
We've all been together since sophomore year. We've been through ups and downs with the 1-9 season, and we just hope this is the year.
Coming off that 1-9 season, what was last year like? Like, did you feel like you guys hit your stride at some point where it was like, okay, like this is different than it was the year before?
Yeah, it was a refresher. Like week 2, we beat Park Hill South 68-0, and it was kind of like it's refresh, shaking everything off.
You guys have a lot of offensive weapons.
Yeah.
You're a big part of that. What do you feel like you bring to the football field?
Explosiveness, game changer, speed.
What's your college outlook looking like right now? Like, who are you hearing from, and who?
I'm hearing from multiple D1s. They're all kind of like senior evals, so kind of just waiting.
What do they want you to show? Have they said anything like, hey, we want to see a little more of this, or?
Run after catch, game changing stuff.
What's it like playing with Aiden?
Good. He's smart. We kind of click, so.
Obviously, you guys root for each other as receivers, but is there a little friendly competition in that room too?
Yeah, always.
How's that go?
Good. We know it's all love, so we're all good. So.
That was Gary Hill talking about the Blue Spring South offense. On defense, Ryan spoke with linebacker Jaden Richberg. It's kind of been the heart and soul for a pretty talented and physical group on that side of the ball. He gave his thoughts on the upcoming season, where his recruiting is going, and more. Check that out.
Here at Blue Spring South Media Day with Jaden Richberg. Jaden, we got you here to talk about the defense. Do you feel like, you've got Gary, you've got Aiden, you've got all these guys on offense. Do you feel like at times maybe the defense on this team, gets to kind of fly under the radar and then come fall show everybody what you guys are made of?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we got a lot of good players on defense. We got a lot of older guys that are good and some young up-and-comers, that are going to do a lot of good things this year for us. So,
what is it about this defense that's maybe a little different than the defense that fans saw from Blue Spring South last year?
I'd say we're a little bit more grittier this year. It's a mainly senior-led group, so we're just waiting to get an opportunity. So, yeah.
Knowing how well that you guys did last year, and how many guys are returning, right, like yourself, do you feel some pressure around the community in the hallways that people are wanting this team to deliver to get back to that state championship game?
Personally, I don't feel any pressure really because as long as I do my job, I know I got 10 other guys behind my back that are going to do their job. We just got to do our job and win every play.
This off season, who on defense do you feel like has really kind of caught your attention and maybe taken their game to another level? You could say yourself too, but if you say yourself, you have to add one more player.
Myself, I've been training with Elijah Lee at K-State, so he's been helping me get better and better every day. So I appreciate him for doing that. And then I got two players on mine. Xavier Gammon has really leveled himself up. He's got offers from Pitt State and Northern Iowa, so he's doing a great job. Super long and athletic. Another guy is Prince Goldsby. He's gonna be one of the ones. I can tell you that right now. He's super long, super fast, athletic, strong. I think he's got it up next for sure. So.
While we have you here, let's ask about your recruitment and how that process has been going for you and what you're kind of looking for here this fall.
It's been going good. A few schools have been hitting me up lately. A couple FCS D1s, that want to see my mid-season film. So, I'm just trying to take it one game at a time and make plays every single down.
And then last but not least, I know you'd like to see these stands packed, for every home game, but for maybe some interested high school football fans that are watching this, if you could have them come out and get a taste of a Blue Spring South home game, which home game would you kind of recommend they show up for this year? Is there one that sticks out?
I'd say definitely Liberty and Liberty North. Both those Liberty schools are going to be pretty good games to come to. Both competitive, probably some of the best teams in the Kansas City Metro.
That should do it for this week's episode of the Verbal Commitment Podcast on KCSN. Thanks for following along. If you enjoyed what you saw or heard, leave us a comment or review, like this video, subscribe here on YouTube, or hit us with a 5-star rating if you're listening on an audio platform. And until next time, we'll see you on the trail, and take care.